Hi everyone, and welcome to our Inside Mondelez Careers event today. My name's Haman Karia, and I work in the Northern European talent acquisition team. I partner with our manufacturing, supply chain, and engineering functions. So I hope that you're all ready to come onto a journey with us today to explore what it's like to work at Mondelēz International, where we'll discuss our culture, different career paths, and you'll also have the chance to hear from some of our employees and colleagues within the function as well. Our colleagues that are with us today have been on our different early careers programs, and some of them with us today have also progressed their careers further with us and completed the program. So Mondelēz International empowers people to snack right and is present in over 150 countries around the world. We're leading the future of snacking with iconic global and local brands such as Oreo, BelVita, Cadbury, Milka, and Trebor, as well as many, many others. We're one of the largest snacking companies in the world and have global net revenues worth around about $27 billion in 2020. We make and sell primarily snacks, including biscuits, chocolates, gums, and candy, as well as various cheeses and grocery products. So that's the introduction out of the way. Let's get to know our panel of employees who are with us today. So I'm going to hand it over to them to give a brief introduction. Start with yourself, Andrew.
Hello, everybody. My name's Andrew Paxton. I head up a global function within manufacturing operations that looks after all of our IT and OT technology around our sites globally that enables all of the automation that we have in our factory to keep running, which is a fantastic role that normally I get to do lots of traveling. I've been with the business 24 years now. I've started in my late 20s into the business as an engineering manager originally, and then moved to the iconic Bourneville factory in Birmingham, where I progressed through engineering career into operations, and finally was a factory manager in a different site in my own right. I then had a fantastic opportunity to be the health and safety director for Europe for a number of years, and then I was asked to move into the role I do now, which is initially to set up this global function that I've just described. Hand over to Connor now, I think.
Yeah, so my name is Connor McGurk. I work as a section manager in the Bourneville factory, looking after the assortments and bite-sized sections. And that really is a genuine sort of production management, people management role. But I started off as an engineering graduate on the engineering graduate scheme. Didn't have the most conventional engineering graduate schemes because we were going through a major sort of transformation project at the time. So I spent most of my graduate scheme doing project engineering, installing new machines within the factory. But since then, I've moved on to a number of different roles. So I worked as a process engineer in the chocolate making department, where we make all the liquid chocolate. Then went to be a line leader in what we call count lines, which is the sort of small single serving bars. Then moved into business development, which is sort of more project management and more commercially facing roles before moving back into the factory into a section manager position. So worked in a number of different roles since leaving the graduate scheme, and a sort of a different path.
Super. If we go over to Alex.
Is that me? Sorry. Hi, I'm Alex. So I am section process lead, also in Bourneville, so home of Cadbury here. Section process lead, so I manage a team of process engineers, and our role is to look after line efficiencies, so making sure that the lines are running the best they can, and we're getting the most product out and making the least waste possible. We also look after focused improvement projects, so looking at how we continue to improve the factories and work as the technical go-tos for the lines and any troubleshooting. I first joined the business about 7 years ago on the early careers scheme as an intern. I was actually on the R&D engineering internship, so started doing process research and then rejoined after graduating, couldn't get rid of me. And then I've done a couple of different roles across R&D before moving into the factory as a process engineer, and then really just worked my way through the team, and now lucky enough to manage my own team of process engineers.
Great, thanks Alex. And last but certainly not least, Sana.
Hi everyone, I'm Sana. So my introduction is going to be a lot shorter than everyone else's. I joined Mondelez last year in September as a project engineer in the mince and CLP department as part of the BD&E team. I'm currently based in Sheffield, and this is my first placement, so just coming up to finishing a year at the Sheffield site. I've had the opportunity to lead a few CapEx projects and loss analysis projects, and it's been really, really great so far. And I've learnt lots, and I've got a lot more to learn, so it's going great so far.
Super. Thank you very much, all. And as you can all see, we've got a very diverse panel today in terms of their experiences and different things that they've currently achieved or are in the process of achieving with us here at Mondelēz International. So if we move on then, now that we've got to know our panel, let's dive into some questions that you've asked and that can help you to get to know what it's like inside Mondelēz. So if I go over to Connor first, Connor, can you just share a brief summary of what the manufacturing and the wider MSC function do within Mondelēz International?
Yeah, of course. So manufacturing and supply chain is really kind of what it says on the tin. So we deal with everything from the ingredients in to making the products and then the distribution out to what we call the customers, which is, of course, supermarkets and retailers, and then they pass it on to the consumers. So incredibly diverse in terms of the sort of the roles and the functions that we fulfill within the company. But obviously within that, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of challenges going through. So we have a number of factories across both the UK and across MEU, or what we call Europe, Mondelēz Europe. But there's a lot of opportunities out there for everyone in all those kind of different functions.
Great. Excellent. Right. So if I then move over to Sana, so what attracted you as a graduate coming out of university to join Mondelēz International?
So in terms of what attracted me to join Mondelēz, I think there's loads of things, but one thing that really, really stood out is the diversity. When you hear about like companies promoting how diverse they are and like the focus on diversity and inclusion, you don't always see it. But with Mondelēz, I think that's one thing that really, really stood out instantly, whether it was, you know, the university promotions or even the interview and the assessment centre, you could really, really see how diverse the workforce was instantly. I remember also like the focus on sort of females in STEM and women in engineering. And I think that for me personally was really, really important. And wanting to be in a workplace where, you know, you can grow is obviously really important. And that's one thing that about Mondelēz made me think that this is the kind of workplace that I want to be in. This is where I can grow, where I can see myself becoming a future leader and becoming a strong female in STEM. So I think that's one of the main things, the diversity and inclusion part about Mondelēz that really, really stood out to me.
Fantastic. No, love it. Thank you. And Alex, if you just tell us about your experiences in terms of when you joined, what attracted you to join us as an intern to begin with, and then come back to begin your career with us?
Yeah, I guess when I started looking for internships, I was only a couple of years into my study as an engineer, but I already knew that I didn't want to be kind of in traditional chemical engineering. I had a real interest in the FMCG industry and working with those tangible products that, you know, your family know and love and you can talk about and really get excited about. And then kind of came across Mondelēz in my research. And I think the thing that really interested me was there was a lot of different engineering opportunities. So there wasn't just one thing to apply for. There was lots of different opportunities. So I knew I would have the chance to get different experiences. And then also the link with the IChemE being accredited with the IChemE as well, and knowing that you would get an IChemE mentor to help you kind of progress with your chartership as well, was something that as a student was really good for me.
Super, excellent. And Connor, I mean, obviously, were there anything else that you would want to add to that when you joined us as a graduate?
Not especially. I think the main thing that attracted me was the sort of the freedom and the flexibility that was offered as part of the graduate scheme. So coming out of the chemical engineering course, I didn't necessarily know what the right career path was for myself, and having something that was as sort of wide ranging and opportunities and the freedom to move with those and sort of make your own path was something that was really, really appealing to me. So that's something, obviously, being someone that now doesn't really work in a traditional engineering role, I'm really, really glad that I've been able to capitalize on that opportunity to sort of reach out and do something different as opposed to being boxed in as an engineer, so to speak. So.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And Andrew, looking at the graduate scheme, obviously you've been involved with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in individuals who are coming to join us on the graduate scheme?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, I've been the sponsor for the engineering graduate scheme and now the IT graduate schemes together for about the last 5 or 6 years, I think, and been heavily involved for many years actually, and also with the apprenticeships. I think what we really look for, and very similar to the point Connor just made, actually, we're not looking for people to come and be engineers for the rest of their life, really, for the graduate scheme. We really are looking for people who have the potential, the talent to become leaders of the future in our organisation. I'm probably going to embarrass Connor a little bit now, but I remember Connor at interview. I remember him starting as a graduate, and when I found out only a few months ago that he was doing a job that I was actually doing only 10 years ago, I was immensely proud. And for me, it's about bringing graduates, and interns as well, actually, to really start feeding that pool of talent into the organisation, to give us a pool of leaders for the future that have grown with the business, understand the business, and really know how to get the very best out of the people around them, the brands that we all love, the ones around our heads, and in manufacturing, the processes as well. And it is really, for me, that's the real key for it. That's what keeps me coming back to the graduate scheme and keeps me engaged in it, that this is about attracting the best people we can, the best talent we can, to see the leadership pipeline of the future.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Super. Well, let's take a bit more of a deeper dive into the culture at Mondelez. And if I go to you first, Alex, how would you describe the culture at Mondelez, and namely within our plants that you're a part of?
Yeah, I think one of the nice things about the culture here as an engineer is that there's so many engineers around. I found, particularly during my early careers, when you're starting out, there are so many people with huge amounts of experience and huge amounts of knowledge, not just technical, but also in how to grow in a large organization like ours. And everyone is willing to share their experiences and help you to learn. And I think that's a really positive culture to have, that everybody wants you as an individual to grow and develop.
Excellent. And Andrew, just on that, then, how have you seen the culture evolve during your time, especially thinking about it from a plant's perspective?
That's a really good question. I think if I look at what the culture is now, and I suppose I'm hugely privileged to work for this company for as long as I have, for 24 plus years, but also get to travel around and see our plants all across the globe. So I think I've been to about 60 of our plants over the last however many years. And I think what the kind of thing that comes across most strongly to me in terms of the culture now is dynamic. And we never sit still. Change is in our DNA. It's what we do. It's fun, and hopefully you've seen a bit of that on this call already. We're happy to have fun, and we're also happy to have fun with ourselves. And I think it's appropriately challenging. I felt appropriately challenged, or as challenged as I've wanted to be, probably more importantly, for the last 24 years. And that, for me, is really important, because that allows people to grow at a pace that suits them. You can take on as much or little as you can, and that, if that works for you, that's great. And I think that kind of balance of challenges that you want, fun, appreciation, and dynamism makes it really quite special. I think what we've also seen in the last 18 months is, through COVID, which has just been the most weird of times. I mean, I'm sitting here today in my home office with a dog at my feet, and I just did not like working from home at all. I think what's really come through strongly is resilience. This is a hugely resilient organisation. We've had stunning performances, and I'm sure everybody on the call has researched Mondelez for the come on it. You will have seen that we're performing very well in our marketplaces. But the resilience of our people has just been stunning. Their ability to just, on a sixpence, go from working how we've all worked for many years to working completely differently. The guys in the plants overnight working in COVID safe conditions in plants, keeping the production going, keeping our business running, keeping chocolate going onto the shelves, and keeping people happy and across the world is just amazing. But also supportive. I mean, I would normally bump into these guys kind of once or twice a week as we kind of wander around. I haven't been to the Bourneville plant for 18 months.
Yeah.
But the support networks that have just grown up kind of organically in the organisation have been amazing. I mean, we've everything from virtual pub nights to coffee evenings to whatever. It's just been amazing. So that kind of informal, supportive nature that I see in lots of different functions from lots of different levels is just really, 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 really nice. And somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago. My son's just graduated from university, and he said, would I be happy for my children to work at Mondelez? And I just, without fail, I just said yes, because of what I've just described.
Super, brilliant. Thanks for that, Andrew. Just going to you, Sana, on that as well. As somebody who's fairly new into the organisation still, how have you found it from a cultural aspect?
So being based at the Sheffield site, I think instantly, like joining on the first day, like it's a really, really friendly atmosphere. Everyone's really, really supportive. And obviously when you're joining on the graduate scheme, coming straight out of university, it's quite daunting. It can be daunting, but like having the correct support system and the right people to kind of guide you and provide you that support is really, really nice and really important. And for me, since joining, there's been an endless amount of support, and which has been absolutely central towards my growth, towards working towards my goals, achieving my personal targets as well as the business targets. It's really, really important. So I think the culture is one of growth, and it's got that mindset, and you've got the right people around you to help you achieve your goals together. So that's one thing that really stood out.
Fantastic. And staying with you, Sana, based on, the culture that you've been a part of, like, have you been involved in any initiatives at Mondelez during your time here to make it a more inclusive workplace? Because obviously something that you're quite passionate about. Is that something you've been involved with?
So joining here, one of the I'm talking about any initiatives that I've been able to get involved in is recently looking at how we can promote a more diverse workforce. So I've had the opportunity to look at building a prayer room on site, which has been really, really nice, because obviously the culture that I come from, prayer is really, really important to me, and having that space on site or that bit of privacy is really, really important. It only kind of helps you grow, because you're in that environment where you can not only embrace like your academic skills and things like that, but also embrace your personal life and kind of mix the two, and it's really, really important. So I think just working on a project like that at work is kind of really nice, and it helps you fit in and settle in even more, especially with it being my first placement. So it's great.
Absolutely. Super, thank you. And just on the same topic, Connor, what initiatives have you seen or been involved with that have seen Mondelez become a more inclusive workplace, thinking about it from the plant perspective?
Yeah, it's been a really Andrew kind of touched on it before. It's been a really interesting 18 months. I think one of the things that we have seen is that we've got more connected, whether that be through our colleagues working across Europe or across the globe, or the teams that we work in now are a lot more diverse, just by the nature of the fact that everyone's working in different places.
Sure.
We saw at the end of 2020, so Mondelez rolled out their sort of global commitments on diversity and inclusion. One of which was that 100% of people managers would have a diversity and inclusion related objective as part of their sort of performance management system. So that's come through this year, and every people manager has obviously got to act on that to make sure that we are moving the right way in terms of diversity and inclusion. I think generally, 2020 excluded, the world is just getting smaller. So working in manufacturing in general, we are not shy about getting talent in from wherever that may be. If we look at our plant management team, we've got people from Egypt, people from Latin America, people from all across the world. And we're really, really proud about the strengths that those people can bring. We have sites in Latin America, particularly, that are far more capable than sort of we are in terms of lean and what our process integrated Lean Six Sigma than we are. So it's becoming a smaller and smaller world, 2020 excluded, and the teams that we work in are becoming ever more diverse. And I think that's fantastic, and we see it day to day.
Obviously, the engineering graduate scheme would involve our new graduates working within our plants in Sheffield and Bourneville. So, Sana, can you talk us through what it's like working in a plant within Mondelez, so namely Sheffield?
So obviously working as a project engineer, I've kind of got that split between being in the office and then also being in the factory. But I think being on the plant is really, really important. And especially with it being my first placement, just understanding what kind of processes we have within the business, what kind of processes we have on the Sheffield site, and what it is that I'm working towards, and kind of seeing the bigger picture. So I could have a project where I'm trying to improve product quality, but it's kind of not until you see that process, see what it is that you need to improve, or see what's going wrong, that you kind of develop that appreciation for what you're working towards. So I think being on the plant, it can be quite intense. It's quite fast paced, and say you've got a project in loss analysis and you've got to work towards targets and really, really quick. Obviously you feel that pressure, but I think it's really important in building yourself, and kind of seeing those processes, whether it's packaging, cooking, forming, anything like that firsthand, is really important, and it's really, really useful.
Super. And Alex, what about Bournville? Talk us through what it's like working in the Bournville plant.
Yeah, I think it's probably similar to most factories, but I think working particularly in Bournville plant, it's very fast paced. And for me, I really enjoy that. We have to balance the day-to-day needs with the more long-term needs to make sure we're delivering results all the time.
Of course.
And that's a really good way to learn to juggle lots of different things. You also get to work with a huge variety of people. So, we have people from all different backgrounds. I do work with other engineers, but also work with, the line leaders, the engineering managers, the operators, the technicians, and that really helps you to see problems in a different way as well. So that's been fantastic as a chance to, really kind of see what else is out there. I think to Connor's point on, he's gone down a different route. In manufacturing, you really get visibility of what all those different routes are.
Super. Excellent. And Sana, back to you then. So what have been the benefits to you of joining Mondelez on the engineering early careers program?
So I think with joining on the graduate scheme, one of the really, really good things is obviously that mentoring and that guidance and support that you have. Because at the start of your career, you can you obviously start your first placement, but that might not be your strongest point or what you're the best at. And obviously having the opportunity to rotate between different functions and different sites is really, really useful. So I think that's one of the biggest pros of obviously being on the graduate scheme, but also even switching to a different role and having that guidance from your mentor. Knowing where your strengths lie, where your weaknesses lie, and where you could obviously perform well. You get all that support through the graduate scheme, which is again really, really important for me, especially with me coming towards the end of my 12 months. I'm now obviously looking to move on to my next rotation, and opportunities are endless, and sort of narrowing them down and seeing what it is that I'd excel at or what it is that I'd perform better at, and kind of having my mentor there, my manager there to guide me through that process it's kind of invaluable. So that's definitely one of the benefits of being on the graduate scheme, but also that wider network that you have sort of with the other graduates, with the other interns. It's really nice to kind of see what the other guys are doing, and you kind of have your own little community. So I think that's really cool as well. Super.
And Alex, what about from your perspective? Obviously, you come into contact with a lot of our graduates, interns as well. Have you seen the benefits that they have that recently who've joined us on the graduate scheme?
Yeah, I think the piece I'd pick up on is the network piece that Sana mentioned. I think particularly when you're new in a large organisation like ours, it can be hard to know how to get things done, and to have contacts ready-made for you in other functions, because you're not just in contact with the other engineering graduates, you're in contact with all the other graduates across all of the functions. You have that instant network of people you can reach out to help you understand how to really move things forwards. And I think that's invaluable at the time, but also being a fair way on from doing my internship, a lot of those contacts are still in the business, and they're people that are still useful to have. So I think that really stays with you.
Brilliant. Okay, and just moving on then, and if I go to you, Connor, so can you tell me, obviously you've progressed your career since the graduate scheme, you've had a number of different experiences as you told us in your introduction, but can you tell me about the career opportunities that were available to you and what they look like after the graduate scheme?
Yeah, it was a strange time when I came off the scheme, because we went from a real sort of period of high engineering involvement in installing a major change project to going almost a little bit more back to business as usual. But I got the opportunity to go back into the factory. Probably one of the best moves I've ever made, in terms of my career and in terms of my development. Getting onto a frontline role was really, really key for me. I think one sort of thing that I've learned since, and it's sort of something that it would speak to anyone who's thinking about the careers after the graduate scheme, is Andrew's kind of touched on it before. The one thing about supply chain is it's constantly changing, constantly moving, and the business is still a little bit finding its feet in terms of learning to be a slick, winning organisation. So there's always opportunities for people who are willing to be flexible, who are willing to work hard, who are willing to try something different. So I've worked in 4 or 5 different roles in the sort of 5 years that I've come off the graduate scheme. Yeah. And it's about having those that mindset in that you're willing to give something new a try. And people do crop up over and over again. Particularly, you get engineering graduates in all sorts of positions that you probably wouldn't have thought, and they pop up all over the business. So it is really fast moving. There's a lot going on, but for people that are willing to make the jump and sort of try something new, that's an opportunity as well. So.
Super. Thank you. Okay, brilliant. And keeping on the same positive note, Alex, what's been your biggest career highlight so far with Mondelez?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think probably really the last year to 18 months and moving into sort of leading a portion of the process engineer team here in Bourneville. We had quite a lot of change within the team, and I was in the really fortunate position to hire most of the team myself. And it's been really rewarding to recruit new people to the business, and also to bring some of the graduates into the team as well, and see those people, really develop and pass on some of the skills that were taught to me earlier in my career to those people as well. So I think that's been really rewarding to, build and grow that team.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And Connor, anything to add to that in terms of your biggest or your biggest achievement that you're most proud of since joining?
So I think in terms of an achievement, being part of the Bourneville factory that's gone through 2020 is a massive achievement. We're one of the areas we never stopped production. We've managed to keep the markets, I won't not say satisfied, but supplied through the course of the pandemic. And actually, we had a really solid year last year. So that's a moment of pride for me. If I look at sort of particular highlights, I was fortunate enough to be what was called part of the Chocolate Connections program at the time, which was a program which connected people from factories all across Europe, different functions, different organizations, different cultures. And that was one that really sort of propelled me. We ended up presenting in front of supply chain vice presidents, doing all sorts of different things. So being part of that is something I'm particularly proud of. I think it's given me a great platform to take the next step in my career, and has sort of laid the foundations for where I am now in terms of building up sort of champions in the organisation. But in terms of sort of pride moments, you can't really beat what we've achieved in the last 18 months, really, and what hopefully we will achieve by the end of 2021.
Super. Andrew, I'm guessing you got a lot of achievements within your career, but is there anything that stands out for you?
Blimey, I could talk all day on this one. No, I think the one moment that I suppose it's a moment I remember most fondly, I suppose, is quite a long time ago now, and it relates to investment at Bourneville, and it was when I was doing the role that Connor's doing now, actually. Just think Connor in a few years' time you'll have a great beard and everything else. Yeah. And we'd been working on for 3 or 4 years an investment strategy that was really challenged. The business was really pushing us hard to make sure it was the right thing to do and getting the investment right. And you kind of, when you're in the middle of these things, you kind of get a bit lost in it. Yeah. And it was only when I was standing in front of about 100 people announcing it, in front of all the people in my section on the shift, announcing it, and I got halfway through this announcement, and the penny dropped with me. And wow, we've got, and I'm still trying to talk at the same time. Wow, we've got this investment that we've been working on for the last like 3 years. This is just brilliant, because this is about securing the chocolate volume of Bourneville, and it was significant investment in our liquid chocolate manufacturing area that Connor knows well from his time as a process engineer. And it was a step change in volume that we could make and capability, and also the kind of the quality standards that we had at the time. A huge step change. It was a massive investment. And I just remember standing there, trying not to cry, trying not to just grin like an idiot, whilst keeping 100 people engaged in this thing. And when he kind of finished it and they all went off, I just literally jumped in the air, went, "Yay, we've got it!" Because it just hadn't twigged with me that we'd actually got this investment that was going to secure kind of Bourneville for as long as I'll be working, at least, which was just fantastic.
Super, excellent.
I think a few people did see me go, "Hey," which keep you reminded every now and again.
It's always good. It's always good. And Sana, I mean, in the last year since you've been with us, have there been any standout moments for you?
I think in terms of like standout moments, it would just be seeing the projects that I've done go from start to finish, and being able to deliver them successfully. Because obviously, with it being my first placement, and you get handed all these projects, and you really want to see them through to the end, which is kind of the stage or the point that I'm reaching now. So I think just seeing them through to the end and knowing that you've achieved those deliverables that you set yourself out with is probably the highlights or the best parts.
Amazing. Super. Okay, so moving on, if and I'm going to go to Connor to begin with on this one. Looking back and knowing what you know now, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to yourself when you first applied and first started your career with Mondelez?
I think I kind of touched on it before, but hard work really does play off in the supply chain. And I think the one piece of advice I'd give is almost, take pride in pretty much everything you do. And whether it's a piece of work, whether it's a tiny piece of work, or whether it's a big project, make sure that you do everything you can, put your all into it, and take pride into your work. Because although it's a massive company, it is a small world. Andrew's touched on before, we were sat opposite sides of an interview table nearly 8 or 9 years ago. But it is a small world, so you never know when you might come across people again. Whether someone might see a piece of work that you've done. We're constantly getting better at best practice sharing, at trying to connect the factories. If we're doing something in Bourneville, how can we share that outwards and do that kind of thing? So those would be the sort of, I suppose, two pieces really. Hard work really does pay off, and also just make sure you put your all into every little piece of work that you do, and because you never know who might see it at the end of the day.
Absolutely, brilliant. And Andrew, same question really. What would you, or what piece of advice would you give to yourself when you first started out your career with us, or a piece of advice to somebody starting their career with us at the moment?
Right. Okay. So if I, it's a good question. It's a good question. I suppose I've been working in total for 33 years. I started working when I was 18 as an apprentice in a food company, and then joined Cadbury after 9 years, Mondelez after 9 years. I suppose if I met my 18-year-old self, or even my 25-year-old self, I think the biggest thing I would say would be just relax. It'll come to you. I think we can all be very critical of ourselves, and at times that doesn't help. I think you need to allow yourself to be kind to yourself at times. Allow yourself to be proud of what you've achieved, and use that to inspire you, rather than put self-limiting beliefs in place. I think if I'd said that to myself 18 years ago even, I think it would have been incredibly helpful. I think, thank God, to your next point, your next question about what would I say to people starting their career now, it's two things. I think, be brave. Just think about when you go to your next placement or your next role, step outside your comfort zone. Do something that will stretch you. Do something that will add to the knowledge and experience you have today. Be brave.
Super. Amazing. Thank you so much. Right, before we finish up then, going to go round our panel and just get to know their favorite brands. I'm sure that we've got some weird and wonderful ones here. And Sana, we'll start with yourself. What is your favorite brand or brands that we produce here at Mondelez?
I think my favorite would be Toblerone, hands down.
Solid choice. Solid choice. Brilliant. Alex, what about yourself?
I'm a proper chocolate fiend and love Whisper Gold, but I have just seen we've launched Lou in the UK this week, so I'm excited to go and get some Lou as well.
Absolutely. Super. Connor?
It's got to be chocolate, hasn't it? We work in a Cadbury factory, so I do really like twirls. I think twirls are amazing, but it's not one we make here, so I'm going to go with Whisper.
Whisper, solid choice. What about Twirl Orange?
Not as big of a fan.
No, fair enough.
No,
fair enough.
Couldn't get any.
No, fair enough.
You need to be quicker.
And, Andrew, what about yourself?
Oh, it's got to be Cadbury. Cadbury dairy milk every day. Kind of got to say that, given I ran chocolate making in Bourneville for many years, and specifically Cadbury fruit and nut. Absolutely love it. I've probably eaten far too much of it over the years, but that will be my absolute standout product.
Amazing. I'm going to be.
What about you? What's your favorite product? You haven't told us that.
My favorite product will always be Crunchy since I was a kid. So I love Crunchy, but I'm going to give a big shout out to one of our brands in the Nordics. So Freya, which is our brand in Norway. So definitely recommend that one to anybody that wants to try it. You can get it in IKEA, I believe. So give that one a go as well. So yeah, excellent. Well, I just want to say thank you to our panel today, and that brings it all to a close. So thank you to yourself, Andrew, Alex, thank you so much, Sana, and Connor, thank you so much to all. What's next? We hope that you found this session today insightful in getting to know Mondelēz International better and getting to know the manufacturing supply chain function better as well. So in terms of next steps, recruitment for our 2022 early careers programs for engineering have now opened. And if you're interested, I would recommend that you apply as early as possible. You can do this via our careers websites. So that would be, the link would be in the emails that have already been sent. And if there are the links that we send out after this. And we're also promoting these via all of our social media channels. So check that out via LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, amongst other places. We'd like to wish you all of the success with the rest of your academic careers and your careers going forward, and hope that we've inspired you today to make it happen here at Mondelēz International. Thank you very much, everyone.